Dance party.
Dance party.
Dance party. Wow. Getting comfortable.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's my house.
True. I drove an hour and 30 minutes to get here. For you. At your house.
At my house, yeah. That's crazy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Harmonies and Hindsights, the show where we talk about music, but also about people's lives who I think are interesting. This is the third episode. Last week, we talked a little bit about some of my favorite albums, and I did a tier list. So I hope you enjoyed that if you listen to like folk Americana music. And maybe you had some things that you like didn't agree with.
I didn't agree with the whole list.
Oh, you didn't?
No, it was awful.
Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about that.
No.
Okay, just kidding. Welcome. This is Carson Ezell.
Hi.
Ezell? I should know that.
Yeah,
oh my
it
God.
is Ezell. No, honestly, that is the biggest... My name is the biggest point of contention in my life. People think I'm Carlson, Cameron, Carson, and then my last name, they are like Ezell. That's correct, but like Ezell, like they just can't get it right, and it bums me out.
Absolutely. I'm really sorry about that.
I changed my producer name to Edel. People can't pick up on that either. It's
Do
just
they say Adele?
Adele. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not trying to be Adele.
Are you
dude.
the new Adele?
No. Look at me.
It's Carson Ezell. E-Z-E-E-L. Sorry, whoa.
Whoa.
E-Z-E-L-L.
Yes.
Put some gold on that name. Everybody
Gold
know
on that
Edel.
name? Yeah, I love it.
Everybody know Edel.
There you go.
So Carson and I sort of go way back. I wouldn't say it's a childhood thing, but we went to college together. Mm-hmm. We formed a close friendship. And the best thing about our friendship, which is so fitting for this podcast, I think, is that we have such great talks about life and like working and like going places and what we want to do. Yeah. And I just really imagine this time where Carson and I are both flourishing and we can just like meet for coffee and just like talk about it. You know, it's always a good time. Yeah. When I'm feeling low, I turn to Carson. So hopefully after this episode, you feel like you can also turn to Carson. You can shoot him a DM on Instagram and maybe he'll answer you.
Maybe. But no, Natalie and I got coffee religiously every single Friday from 2021 till we left in 2023.
Absolutely. I think it was a great COVID thing because we were in Boston and like, you know, we love our friendship and it was a good way to like see somebody in public and like, you know, get coffee and catch up. That kind of leads me into my first question. So obviously we probably have different perspectives. Tell the audience about how we met, why we know each other, what's the connection there, and how do you think our friendship sustains itself?
How it sustains itself? That's a deep question. So how we met, I had a very interesting college experience where within the first week, minus Andy and a couple other people that like are in my friend group now, I had a moment where I was invited to the cafeteria and I sat at a table and probably 1, 2, 3 of my closest friends were all at that table and we stayed friends all throughout college and we are all now in the same city, which is crazy. So you were a part of that because Matt, who was on Talks with T last week, or a couple weeks ago, he and I like met at orientation. Yeah. And then he and I just hung out periodically throughout that like orientation week. And then one day he was like, "Hey, is it okay if like these 2 girls come to the cafeteria with us?" And I was like,
and that was me and my friend Giselle.
No. It was Tiona.
That was me and really?
That was you and Tiona.
This is why I asked this question.
Yeah.
You fill in the blanks.
So it was you and Tiona. Immediately, like we start talking, and I don't know if you just carried your Valley Girl accent, but I immediately like picked like, and it's so uncharacteristic of you now. But like at that time, I was like, this girl's a bit snooty. Like, this is like, because
I'm a little Visco girl. I had my Hydro Flask.
No, 100%. You were feeling.
I've evolved.
Yeah, for sure.
Just wanna, put that out there.
No, because listen. I know Bakersfield isn't like some gilded city or whatever, especially in like the ranking of California. Yeah. But I'm like, oh yeah, I'm from Bakersfield, and she, no cap, goes, "You're from Bakersfield?" And I was like,
no one's from Bakersfield.
No one's from Bakersfield. And I was straight up like, oh, this girl is interesting. Like, I was like, I don't know what to take of this. But when you were like, how did our friendship continue? I really don't know.
I don't either. That's so funny.
Because I think there was like freshman year, like of college, which I think a lot of people can relate to, you kind of like have your group, and then that group, of course, like dwindles over the years, and then you stick to. So we were kind of in the same group, like that whole freshman year. So like we would see each other periodically, and then like that was just it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what spawned the going to Pavement every single Friday.
I don't either.
You know, I think we just did it one time, and then we were like, this is great. It's making me less depressed, you know, like, and then we just kept doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it was just a thing where like, it was like you, me, Matt, Giselle, and then sometimes Tiana too, like would just hang out, and then that just kind of continued.
Absolutely. In my perspective of it too, I think kind of what you said, like not even in a bad way that we don't know how the friendships continued, but now that you're saying that, I think I do. I think like during COVID and stuff, and like there's always so much external stuff going on in your life that like sucks, but I feel like nothing in our friendship has ever like sucked. I think that's why it's been so good. Yeah, no, it's like a safe place to just like, you know, you're gonna have a good talk, you know, it's gonna be a good time. We have a lot of the same like values about life and stuff, so I think that's why it's sustained itself. No, it's like 100%. Someone you can talk to that you know is like not gonna judge you, and you're just there to like uplift each other, and I think you just need that in life, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Good energy.
Because I think like we've both understood that we like, especially what's been really nice too is like, I know like our deal is like, when you do make it big, I'll just play drums for you until your acoustic tour.
People might get bored. They need a drummer. The drummer keeps the energy going.
Keeps the energy going. But even though we're both in music, we're in the same field, but we both have our own goals and aspirations. It's a lot easier to cheer each other on.
Absolutely.
Because it's not like a competition. Whereas like if you took me and maybe some of the other drummers, I was genuinely cheering them on at school. But at the same time, you're also like, well, am I passing this? Like, what am I, you know?
Absolutely.
And so with us, I don't think we ever played those mental games. And then at the same time too, like we just kind of have the same values. So moving forward with that, like when we have conversations and we were like, oh, I think this about it, like it's never like I wonder what she's gonna think about this, you know. Exactly. So I think that's super huge too.
Yes, we're just supportive of each other, and I think that's what is the foundation of a good friendship.
Exactly.
So you like mentioned Bakersfield. I don't know if everybody here knows where Bakersfield is. It's like on the way to Vegas if you take that route.
It just depends where you go. So Bakersfield, like if you look at LA's like, I don't know, like the southern of the California thing.
Yes.
If you drive literally 2 hours north on the 5, you'll go through the mountains, and then you'll descend into a valley. And like once you get in that valley, like 20 minutes, you're in Bakersfield.
So being from Bakersfield, tell me a little bit about like growing up. Do you come from a musical family? Why do you pursue music? Living in Bakersfield, was it somebody that was like famous where you were like, I want to be that? Or was there somebody in your life that was like, I need to get out of Bakersfield and it's time for me to like go to Berkeley and do my thing?
Okay, I'll try to answer all of those.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Succinctly. So Bakersfield is like, especially like in the 60s and 70s, or also the 50s too. I'm going to give you like a country music history lesson right now.
I love country music.
I know you do.
You're on the right podcast.
Exactly. So in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there's Western swing, which came from like San Francisco and stuff like that. But at the same time, simultaneously, there was the Bakersfield sound. So there's like people like Buck Owens, Merle Haggard that were like pioneering this new country sound with like this kind of group called the Okies, which was basically a bunch of people that migrated to, I didn't think I was going to get into this.
You know so much about Bakersfield history.
I don't. This is like the only piece of information I know. But like they migrated, and like they were called Okies. So like it built up this cultural thing. When I grew up, like that was definitely a thing of the past. And growing up, I definitely didn't enjoy country music like I do now. Especially when I was younger, I really didn't like it because it was just like music my parents put on in the car. Yeah. And like when you're a kid, you're like, my parents aren't cool.
For sure.
You know, so like the music they listen to, I'm like,
what's that?
Especially like my parents, I love my parents to death. They listen to the same music over and over again. So it could have been like Britney Spears, and I would still be like, Britney sucks, you know? Like, you know, like, I realized like I was on a fishing trip with my dad, and I was like, I think you just have 70 songs in your iPod, dude.
That you rotate.
You just rotate the same ones. Anyways, so Bakersfield really didn't have, and like especially like in school, and literally like minus like going to church and like playing music there, there wasn't really like any cultural push to do music. I attribute, and like I kind of had this realization like at my senior year of college, like really thinking about it, all of my motivation to do everything that I do is just my family. And it's not because they're musically oriented. Like my dad could play guitar. He says he can't. He could play guitar. The reason for me to pick drums was I realized I wanted to play an instrument, but my brother played guitar, bass, and piano, and I didn't want to be a copycat, especially being the youngest by like 9 and 7 years.
For sure.
I didn't just want to be Bryce carbon copy.
Carson is the youngest in his family.
Yeah.
By like not a huge number, but
it's
you're the baby.
Yeah.
They love you.
You know, and I love them. And so I was like, I don't want to be a copycat, so what does he not play? And I specifically at the time was really into rock music, so the only other instrument left, because I knew I couldn't sing, was drums.
I see.
So really all of my propulsion into getting into music was all of my cousins showing me all the music that was quite formative for me during those times. So it was a lot of like stuff like Andy and I talk about on Break Stuff. It's just like a bunch of metal and like rock music. And so that was really, you know, pushed me forward in that regard. But it wasn't until, because like when I started, I was like, I really want to like do drums. And then I remember halfway through high school, I had enough people telling me like, hey, we've done it. We've tried it. Like you should just try to get something stable. Because like talking about the culture of Bakersfield, most people are just like, I'm going to settle down, have a family.
Sure. Yeah.
Which nothing wrong. Just like that's just what's expected. Especially like when you're really young. And so I had all of those voices, and then it wasn't until my senior year where I watched an interview with the producer for Childish Gambino. I'm like Ludwig, I can't say his last name, but he was talking about how he built Redbone from the ground up, and I was like, that's really interesting. So that re-sparked, and so like it was perfect timing because that was when I was applying to colleges. I had already had all of these other colleges. I was just going to go live my normal American dream. Like already lined up, and then I just threw those away.
Were you going to study music there, or was it just like undeclared, like I'm just going to go to college?
I was just going to get like a business degree.
Okay.
And then I threw those, like I applied to a couple of them as like safety, but I basically put all my cards into Berkeley and then this other school, which like I've talked to Tiona about it. It's interesting. Like I would have gone if I got accepted in time. Like I don't know if you
interesting. Yes.
I don't know if you remember, but like in California, you have to declare where you're going to college by a certain date. This school, it's the Liverpool Institute of the Performing Arts, and they let me know like 2 days after the deadline. And so I had already committed to Berkeley.
Okay.
And all those things. I could have gone all the way out, but I was like, you know what? I still think Berkeley is the choice.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of like my propulsion out of it, whereas like I still want to play drums, produce, but it took a lot of like, you know, piecing together what I really want instead of what everyone else is telling me to do.
Absolutely. And you kind of mentioned too, Carson and I talk at length about this in our personal lives, but the feeling that you do stuff for your family, I also relate to, because I think we're both aware, like when you come from a great family and you have that, it's almost like you feel like you have to owe that back because they've spent so many years supporting you and like saying that, oh, you should go chase your dreams, and like we're there to like hype you up about it, which there's so many people in life who don't have that. So you almost have this surreal sense of like,
it's surreal.
Okay, well now I have to do it. Like I actually have to do this because you know?
Well, no, I had an interesting thing. My sister came down and we went to go see John Mayer at the Forum. And like I was explaining this to her. Like I was like, I don't think you realize, and like I haven't like explicitly told you guys, but like I've done all of this for you guys. Like I know you always like I always have your love no matter what I do. I could go decide to be a carpenter tomorrow and I know they would still love me. But it was like, it was almost like a lot of my world wasn't shaped to impress myself, but it was shaped to impress them.
Yeah.
Wow. Which is,
that's deep, Carson.
It is deep. But she was like, well, Carson, like you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, well, no, I still love doing this. Like this, and maybe that's how it started. But now I've realized what I truly find joy in doing in like my craft, and what I would do with my career is music.
Okay. So on that note then, obviously you do it for your family, but obviously you do it for yourself, or else you wouldn't. And you know how I know that? It's because we've got a couple folks in this room. Everyone who knows Carson personally, Andy's nodding his head because he doesn't even know what I'm about to say, but you're gonna keep nodding your head. Carson is the hardest worker that I've ever met in my entire life. Carson, like, just, I think you care about yourself, like, in the best way. You're like, you have a vision for yourself, and you're not a say person, you're a do person. And I wrote something down. You give the aura that says, I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm gonna follow through. I don't think there's ever been a time where Carson has said something and he didn't do it. So tell me about, like, are you just wired that way, or where does that come from? Because sometimes I think people are wired that way, and you find something you love and you just do it. Or is this something you've, like, one day you were like, I want this so much that I have to be this?
There's a comedian, Pete Holmes, that I really like, and he said something on his podcast that was very interesting. And he said, for me to get where I am, I had to kill a part of myself.
Wow.
And so I really related to that, because really my trajectory, like, I practiced drums when I was really young and everything like that. I always tell people, like, I started when I was 9, but I really took it seriously when I was 14. Because that was when I would actually, like, go on my free time and practice. Whereas when I was 9, like, I would, you know, my mom was always like, you practice all the time. I was like, no, I didn't. I played Minecraft with my friends. Like, that's what I did on my free time.
Yeah.
For me, what I kind of realized is, like, and it's the same kind of, I guess, to go back to family, this will all interweave, but it's an interesting story. So, like, my cousin, Andy Drees, I highly doubt he's listening to this, but, like,
well, let's call him in. Now he has to listen.
He's right
to
here. And you're like, come on in. So, Andy, he all of his life, he was definitely, like, heavier set. He was a linebacker for football, like, definitely, like, on the 250 to 300 range. Forgive me if I'm getting the numbers wrong, Andy, but
God, Carson,
I'm not like this is not the point, is the number, but, like, I'm saying, like, like, always just been that. And then I remember I was 14, and I don't know if it was a holiday or they were, like, all of that side of the family was just visiting. Came back, he moved to San Francisco, lost all that weight, and became a trainer at Equinox.
Wow.
And so I remember, like, this, you know, like, the whole, like, my grandmother's house was all like, what, did you see Andy? Because it was very drastic when you see someone like that for so long, and then all of a sudden, you know. And so I was really inspired by that, because, like, especially, like, I think all of the things I seek out in my life are all very intertwined. So, like, really taking care of my body, doing music, like, all these other things are very intertwined.
Yeah.
So with, like, how I felt about myself at that time, I wasn't very I mean, I was 14. Everyone's gross when they're 14. But, like, I was especially gross. Okay. And so I really wasn't comfortable in my skin. So seeing that, and then I remember he pulled a quote from, I forget what book it was, but it was written by a Navy SEAL, but it was the idea that discipline is freedom. And so adopting discipline actually grants you more freedom in life than if you just do whatever you want and pray that it works out. And so from that moment on, I started applying that to my music. So, like, I took, like, practicing for, like, jazz band and orchestra and all that stuff, like, a lot more seriously. And so, you know, I took the kid that was 14 that normally would go home, eat, like, an absurd amount of pizza rolls, like, watch YouTube.
And play Guitar Hero.
Which I'm, like, sadly good at.
He's so good at Guitar Hero. Oh, my God.
I still tell people Guitar Hero is what birthed my music taste.
There we go.
Because all those songs really, like, gave me the roadmap of what I like. By the way, what was your, like, junior high school, like, I'm going to devour this when I go home?
Oh, my God.
Snack or, like, meal?
That's such a great question. Okay.
Because mine was pizza rolls or Taco Bell, which is a gross combo.
Mine is still
nutrition
at its finest. Oh my God, mine's such a boring answer because it's still what I eat every day. I eat eggs and toast every day.
Eggs and toast,
and
that's
I have
great.
Been since 8th grade.
Well, you're like way ahead of me.
Well, if anyone knows Caleb is here. We've had talks about, like, discipline, like you said. The most disciplined people, you wear the same thing every day. You eat the same thing every day. And there's, like, you, like, that's how you function well, though, because
Yeah.
then your brain is occupied to actually important things that you don't need to occupy. What am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat this morning? So
I own the same
You know?
8 pairs of shirts from Target. They're just different colors.
absolutely. And you look great.
Thank you.
It's the Carson fit.
It's the Carson fit. So, yeah, so I took pizza roll eating Carson, for you, egg toast eating Natalie.
Egg toast.
And
Breg. Bread, egg, breg.
bread egg. And I was like, okay, I have to, like, to the Pete Holmes quote, like, I have to kill that part of myself, you know, in order to achieve, like, what I want. So I slowly started implementing it with my music, and people, like, especially in band, were noticing. They're like, oh, like, if I messed up and didn't practice in band, I would immediately go home and practice for 3 hours until it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, everyone's like, how do you have the song memorized? And I was like, because I was embarrassing yesterday. So it like, slowly compounded. And then, especially, like, my senior year of high school, like, especially with, like, how I looked and, like, how I was taking care of my body, especially, like, with nutrition and working out, I was at, like, an all-time low. So then I was just like, okay, I need to apply what I did with music and then also apply that to this part of my life and kill the eating Wingstop 5 times a week Carson, you know, because I definitely was doing that my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And so it, like, you're asking about, like, how I got all this discipline and stuff like that. It was just slowly compounded over time. Because once you adopt it in one part of your life, you kind of realize you're like, well, I can do that over here. And then everything kind of, like, decisions become easier. Like, there's a part of your brain called the AMC. And so it's like, delegates, like, tough decisions. So, like, if you don't want to wake up at 6 a.m., but you force yourself to wake up at 6 a.m., you have grown your AMC because that's a part of your brain. So you build and morph that. So there's people like, I know all the bros reference him, but like David Goggins and stuff like that. And he's like this psycho man that, you know, runs ultra marathons on, like, broken knee and stuff like that. And it hit, like, there's a brain scientist. He's like, his AMC is, like, probably huge because he's forcing himself to put through all these situations.
Yeah.
So to the point of, like, this compounding discipline. And I hope this isn't just like some ego spill of myself.
No.
It's just like an answer to this.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
It kind of, like, once that part of your brain keeps growing, then, like, decisions to be like, okay, so I really want to still play drums, but I need to, like, figure out how to pay rent while doing that. At the same time, I need to figure out a way to accurately, like, and well market the music that I do and how that applies to my friends and how I can make that. So we make this podcast. I don't want to make a podcast. Whenever I tell people that I made a podcast, they're like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, kind of not, you know, like, because part of me is I'm like, I don't necessarily want to do, I have a great time doing this with you guys,
Absolutely.
of course.
Yes.
But I saw this as, like, a necessary step to keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope that answered the
It did.
question well.
Yeah. I wanted to say too, like, you said, like, oh, I hope this is not an ego spill. Anyone who knows you personally, it, like, can't be, because the thing about you is, like, you're driven in your own life. Also, you inspire everybody around you. You inspire me all the time to, like, keep going towards this. And, like, you starting this and allowing me to do this, I'm like, I can't say no. I'm like, Carson's starting this thing that will be a good thing, even for us to just look back on when things go well one day.
No, 100%.
And of course I want to be here and do this. But you say all this and you're extremely inspiring because, like, even in my personal life and stuff, like, when things are low, like, I'm at a lower point in life, sort of.
Same here.
Speak. And he's like, Carson is never, he's just there to say, it's going to get better. You just have to keep going at it.
Keep moving.
You're not like, do this, and then you'll be successful, because we're all figuring it out, but you're always there to, like, be supportive, but you're also just really in charge of your own life. And it's inspiring.
Thank you. I think that's the thing that's most annoying about our career path. And, like, I'm not saying, you know, being a doctor is any easier, but, like, there's a path. Yeah, you're going to have, like, moments on the road where, yeah, it is something that's up to luck or something like that. But for us, we could work to the bone, you know, at our craft, gigging, like, or just making music.
Yeah.
And it's still a thing that's just, like, so up, and it's frustrating for me, like, as, like, a person that, like, I really take into account discipline. It's like, this is really frustrating because it's like you think when everyone would tell us, like, and I feel like we talked about this like over coffee. I hated when people were like, "Oh, congratulations, you graduated from Berkeley," and I'm like, I'm never downing the work that it took to get there.
Yeah.
But that means nothing.
It's like a step to where you're going.
It's just a step. Like I don't use that school as a calling card. It's not a thing where it's just like I learned some stuff. I met great people like you, like Andy, like Tina, like everyone, and like that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I got better at drums. I got better at producing. That's freaking great. I definitely would not be here without it, but I also am not like I went to Berkeley College of Music. You know, like whereas I'm not calling anyone specific out, but like there are some people like that. You know,
for sure.
Where was I going with this? I always get on that tangent because it always fires me up. I'm like, guys, this isn't the end goal. But yeah, no, I think that's the thing that's frustrating. It's like you can go through all these steps, and like that's also why like halfway through college I was considering dropping out and like seriously considered it because I was like, it doesn't matter. Like it's like I would rather start grinding. My argument was I'd rather start grinding in LA sooner than tough it out at Berkeley and
Relatable.
And do intro to ecomusicology with Andy, like.
No, absolutely. There's like two different types of people. It's like, I think we both agreed with the college experience. It's like, I would never take it back because you've just gained so much from it, but it's not something that like either of us felt like we could have stayed in long term, especially when COVID hit. I was like, I'm out of here. It has nothing to do with the school. It's just, I see my life going somewhere.
I still like, props to you on finishing in 3 years. I wish I did that. Like, but at the end of the day, we're still here right now.
We're still here right now.
So
at
like,
the same place. Yeah. I want to ask you, I have a belief about something and I want to know if you agree.
Okay.
With discipline and stuff, sometimes, especially with music, people are like, oh, but it's so up in the air. And I tend to be a realist, right? So I'm like, this may not work out. So here's my plan X, B, Y, Z,
Yeah.
But I also believe deep down, even though I don't say it all the time because I feel like it's like being blind to life. But I say, if you do put in the work and you're dedicated, why is it not going to work out? Because like what you put in is what you're going to get out. And I believe that. Or do you think there's like some truth and not truth to that?
No, there's absolute truth to
like it has to work out. It just has to.
I'm going to keep quoting Pete Holmes because I freaking love Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes. This one's for Pete Holmes.
He was interviewing. There's a new sketch comedy group on SNL. I forget what I think it's called Please Don't Destroy. He was interviewing them. And he was talking to them how like at NYU, like they would have a daily ritual of writing sketches every single day. And Pete was like, I want to highlight that because of course, like one of the guys in Please Don't Destroy, his parents worked for SNL. So like they had that in.
Yeah.
But he was like, but I also want to highlight the fact that like, even though you had that connection, you every single day were like, let's put it in terms for you. Like, I'm going to write a song every day, or like this week, I'm going to work on this concept. Right. And that's going to be more meaningful because again, all your energy is being put into, excuse me. Sorry. That's for break stuff, not this show. What is it? You're putting all that energy into it. So that's what your output's going to be, even though, something like a podcast or, any of your songs, these are things that you'll reap the harvest much later, than, right now. I think one of the most frustrating things, and like my boss was telling me about Billie Eilish, and he was, because I think a lot of people look at someone like her and is like, well, she was super young when she got all this stuff. No doubt. But one of the few things I'll say about this job that I can, but he was like, Billie Eilish knows every single Beatles song.
Oh yeah, she's a musician.
She know, like you could be like Eleanor Rigby and she'll be like,
Yeah.
So it's a thing of like, yeah, you have these people that are in the spotlight and it's like, sure, there is a lot of luck and all of those things, but they have also similarly put in an insane amount of time, similar to us putting in the 10,000 plus hours into all the work we do. So I think it is a thing where like, yeah, if you weren't practicing, like one of my pieces of advice is like one friend of mine asked like, I'm really curious in this, but like I also want to keep cultivating my music career. And I was like, okay, we'll always be ready for when, weird example, but be ready for when Simon Cowell is just at your door and he's like, I'm gonna do a terrible British accent, but I'm not going to. But play something for me, like I don't know.
Bring it on.
Bring it. There you go. But like you always need to be ready for that and keep putting in that work, because the moment that you think that you're just good, i.e. some of the people that graduate from Berkeley or any of these other prestigious schools, you have lost.
That makes sense.
So the energy that you're putting into it is going to compound into that. It's just a thing where everyone thinks it just happens like that. It's like, no. It might happen just like that out of nowhere, but it's after hours and hours and hours and hours and years of work.
Absolutely. And I just lost my train of thought because Carson just speaks and I'm like, yes. Yes.
Don't give me that power. I'm going to start a cult soon or something.
Exactly. But Carson is the person I go to for all this stuff, because like currently in my life, I'm like, okay, I'm putting out all this music. I'm doing it. I'm not super disciplined, but I'm also not someone who can write a song every day. And I'm like so cool with that, or else they'd be like horrendous.
Okay, I'm going to stop you with the I'm not disciplined. Anyways, keep going.
But
Natalie has a song coming out in March.
I do have a song coming out in March. But like what you said, like I'm doing the thing, right? But it's like you're not reaping a reward from it and people don't understand you. But it's like all this you're doing is preparing you for when finally one stroke of success comes to you, you've got it. You have what you need to show and what you've done. So Carson, you're absolutely right about that.
I think it's going to be funny too. It's going to be the song that you don't like.
Right?
I know confidently whatever is going to get me into my drumming career, it's going to be a song I don't care about and I don't think is going to have an impact.
Absolutely. I have not been tracking time, but I'm sensing 30 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
So my last thing to you is, Carson, it's on tape. You have to do something for me one day. Okay? Ready?
Okay, yeah.
You're going to be drumming. You're going to be doing your thing. And I request in front of the crowd for a segment of 5 minutes, they pull up Guitar Hero and you shred in front of the crowd on the advanced level.
For those just listening, we're shaking hands.
Yeah.
On advanced level. Okay, I will say I'm good at Guitar Hero, but I'm not like through the fire and... No, wait. Listen to this caveat. I'm not through the fire and flames level. Like, I could do some songs on the expert, but like, I'm not doing the crazy freaking tapping thing that some of these fools can do.
No, I got you.
You know what I mean? Like, but Caleb gets me.
But it's still impressive.
Oh yeah, I did do Hyperspeed. But those are on songs like I know, like again, before 14, I didn't have much aspirations in life, Natalie.
Look at you now.
I could have been actually practicing guitar, you know.
But now Carson's here and he's on this podcast, and Carson, it was so great to know
great.
more about you. So now people on their internet, when they find you, they're gonna be like, Carson, I gotta know more about Carson. They're gonna see the Fergalicious video and be like, I gotta know him.
I had to explain that to someone recently.
Did you really?
Before they followed me on Instagram, I was like, I need to tell you a story before you look at this Instagram.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I think you know too. I was like, listen, you cannot think I'm a creep. And I'm like,
fair.
Because that's the first thing that comes up.
So fair.
Rightfully so. But it's the first thing that comes up. Like
I shot that video.
She did a really good job.
Thank you.
I just texted her out of the blue. I was like, can you shoot a video for me?
It's like choreographed. I'm reaching out to Boko people to like choreograph it and filming. Can I edit it down? Here you go.
Yeah. No, it was great. And you got a bagel.
I got a free bagel.
Yeah. For work, that was probably more than a bagel.
Oh my God. That was perfect for me. I was like, free bagel? You've won me over.
Yeah. Shout out to Pavement Bagels.
Pavement Bagels.
Still, I've not tasted anything on the West Coast that matches it.
We love Pavement. People would think we're like sinners for saying that too. People are like, Pavement's disgusting. I'm like, you weren't there every Friday.
Okay, wait. Coffee, I would say
coffee's mid.
I will say mid. But pavement, look at me. Pavement. Your bagels, to die for.
To die for.
To die for.
Will you send us some in free promo?
Listen,
for our East
Pavement,
Coasters?
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us.
I might work for Starbucks, but I have no loyalty.
0. Well, Carson, thank you so much. This has been Harmonies and Hindsights. We'll see you next week for something. That is Harmony and Hindsight related.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.